With a vegan diet, you'll usually hear one of two things. It's either the healthiest way you could possibly eat or the unhealthiest. So which one is it? The truth is, it's a bit of both. And although there are many huge benefits to eating a plant-based diet, these are 7 big mistakes that vegans make that put their health in jeopardy. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what those are so you can avoid them. This first mistake I see time and time again, especially with newer vegans, comes from taking the mindset of how they used to eat and applying it to their new diet. But that leads to making a lot of poor choices, which puts their health in jeopardy. What do I mean by that? It's sort of like when I was an undergrad and I was studying abroad in Amman, Jordan in the Middle East. I was seeing all of my friends having the time of their lives, partying it up over in Barcelona and London. And so that's the experience I wanted for myself too. So I tried doing that in Jordan, a country where most people don't even drink alcohol, until I realized it sucked. I realized that the best of what Amman had to offer wasn't a vibrant nightlife scene, but instead hanging around the shisha bar with friends, finding the best hummus spots in town, and going to the desert on the weekends. And that's exactly what people try to do when they switch to a plant-based diet, specifically when it comes to protein. They try to get the same amount of protein they used to get, so they'll start pounding vegan protein bars, vegan protein powder, not realizing that that's not really how you should approach a plant-based diet. Because yeah, on average, it's gonna have less protein than a non-vegan diet. But instead, it offers a whole spread of different nutrients, which is exactly what can make it so great for your health. But does that mean you're not gonna get enough protein? The truth is, you only need about 10% of your calories to come from protein to meet your requirements. And to maximize muscle gains for an athlete, that number climbs to around 15 to 18% of calories. So it's not even a huge jump. And this is all easily achievable on a vegan diet just by including a variety of whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds into your diet, with a bit more of an emphasis on beans, lentils, and soy products if you're interested in athletic performance. And by getting your calories from those foods, you'll also be enjoying all of the other benefits they offer, like fiber, antioxidants, and phytonutrients, all of which are either much lower or completely absent in animal foods. So don't worry about getting the same amount of protein as before. When people go vegan, oftentimes they get into this headspace where they start reevaluating everything they're eating, but that can lead to more harm than good. For example, you might start thinking, wait, is gluten bad for me too? Do I need to go gluten-free, sugar-free? Do I need to start eating raw foods? But eating a plant-based diet is a bit like the stock market. If you look at investment advice online, you'll hear a ton of stuff like invest in this stock or invest in this stock, burn Tesla. It can all get overwhelming, but the reality is it's not that complicated. The best investment advice is just putting your money into something called an index fund and letting it grow. And no, this is not financial advice. But anyways, without getting too deep into it, the simplest method of investing is also the most effective. You don't really have to worry about anything more complicated than that. And in fact, the more complicated you try to make your strategy, the worse off you'll probably be. And it's the same with a whole food plant-based diet. If you focus on getting 80% of your calories from a variety of whole plant-based foods, you're probably gonna be in the best health of your life. Focusing on a bunch of other restrictions makes it way harder than it needs to be, and the reality is probably doesn't bring you any additional benefits and might even leave you worse off. Going back to the convenience side of things, skipping gluten just because means you miss out on tons of zero effort meals like all bran with plant milk or jam on toast. Cheap lazy vegan better watch yourself because I'm about to start busting out all kinds of lazy as recipes. So don't restrict your diet any more than you have to. This next mistake is all too common, but luckily the fix is easy. So I used to live in Mexico City, and when I would tell people I was vegan and I was gonna get some vegan tacos, people would tell me, vegan tacos? What are you gonna do, put corn in there? And yeah, I agree, that would be an insult to tacos. The tacos I would have were filled with beans, soy meat, and seitan, and that's the problem. Most people think all vegans eat are fruits and veggies, but I'd argue fruits and veggies should be a small percentage of where your calories come from. Don't come for me. I'm not saying not to eat these, but have y'all looked at how many calories are in fruits and veggies? they're mostly water after all. You should be getting the overwhelming majority of your calories from whole grains, legumes, and nuts and seeds. Now, I'm not trying to pick on this person or anything, but I just saw a Reddit post where someone was like, I'm eating this and I feel amazing. And it's like, no, dog, you're about to get sick, unless that's the starter before your hummus platter. So make sure you're not missing any of the basics of a plant-based diet like whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. Alright, so the other day I posted a thirst trap on Instagram. Don't worry, y'all got it first. My friend from Italy, he writes to me and he goes, Ma che cazzo amigo, come hai fatto? And he was like, I'm trying to lose the weight. No, and he goes, and he was like, I'm trying to lose weight. How do I do it? And I remember the last time he made me dinner, I saw this man just dumping in the oil. He was holding nothing back. Veggies, gotta fry them in oil. Noodles, definitely need oil to cook those. Homemade hummus to go with the noodles, you gotta get the oil in there. And what's wrong with oil, right? I mean, it's vegan, it's good for you. Well, the thing is, oil is a massive source of calories, and it's probably the single food that most catches vegans off guard. They think it's just a little bit of oil, but just 1 tablespoon of oil has 130 calories. So that thing you do with oil, that's probably 2 to 3 tablespoons right there. And doing that over the course of the day for your meals, that easily adds hundreds upon hundreds of calories a day without you even noticing, which can easily lead to unwanted weight gain. And this brings me to my next point. Okay, so y'all ever heard of the story of Icarus who got wings and then got so cocky he flew too close to the sun and his wings burned off and he died until Palantena or whatever came and saved him? I don't know, I'm laughing. Well, anyways, this is very relevant because even experienced vegans get overconfident and make a huge mistake that can destroy their health. I was talking to my vegan friend the other day and they were like, oh, I don't take supplements. I was like, dude, what? You don't take B12? But they were like, nah, I'm fine. Y'all, do not do that. Do not with low B12. That will mess you up. I get it. Some vegans want to show that it's so easy to be vegan. You don't need supplements, it. But the reality is a B12 deficiency will sneak up on you and it's not something you want to risk. So please make sure you have a reliable source of B12, whether that's fortified foods or a supplement. And you may look at your B12 supplement bottle and it'll say like 8,000% of daily value or some super high number. So you might be tempted to think, oh sweet, I only have to take this once every couple of years. But no, that's on purpose to make sure your body absorbs enough because it'll only absorb a small percentage of it. And it's worth noting that a B12 deficiency can take a while to develop because our bodies store B12 so that you have reserves of it. But leave it to us to f it up anyways. To have peace of mind, I recommend getting a blood test if you can, once a year, just to check your levels. And don't be afraid to remind your vegan friends to supplement. I too sometimes go longer than I should without taking my B12 supplement. So let's help each other out. Make sure you have a reliable source of B12. This next mistake is another vegan killer, and it's such a shame because the solution really is so simple. You see, although it's a lot easier to get most vitamins on a vegan diet, I would say there are a few that you need to pay extra attention to, and this is one of them. The good news is it's really easy to include once you know how to do it. The vitamin is omega-3, which most people get from eating seafood. A big misconception, however, is that omega-3 is exclusively from fish. But that's not true. You can get omega-3 from plenty of plant-based sources as well. However, even with these, there's a lot of confusion about what actually has omega-3, so I'm going to clear that all up right here, right now. The main 4 sources of plant-based omega-3 that you'll see consistently recommended by nutrition authorities are going to be chia seeds, flax seeds, walnuts, and hemp seeds. Okay? Capiche? And that's it. There are some oils like flaxseed oil and canola oil that have it, but in terms of whole foods, these are your foods. I don't know how PCRM is out here getting away with putting beans as an omega-3 source with zero point 0.1 grams per half a cup. Like who's managing this page? This last mistake is probably the hardest one to fix, and I get it. It can take a little time, but it's absolutely critical for long-term success, and all long-term vegans I know have mastered it. Let me show you what I mean. I was in Switzerland last year visiting my friend, and we stopped by his girlfriend's apartment. He goes, "Oh, you're gonna love it. She has tons of vegan stuff. She's really into health." And so when we got there and I saw the fridge, it was loaded with vegan chocolates, ice creams, and she also had a ton of vegan chips, cookies, and all kinds of snacks. My friend looks at me and goes, "See? Healthy." And I'm sorry, my friends, to say, but that's just not how it works. Just because something is labeled vegan doesn't mean it's healthy. Vegan junk food can still have a lot of saturated fat, which isn't good for you, and it's got a ton of calories. And at the end of the day, calories are still calories, and if you eat more of them than you burn, you will gain weight. The truth is, the idea that my friend and his girlfriend had about vegan being a synonym for healthy is pretty common. And if you're eating more plant-based food, you absolutely have to get away from that mentality and get familiar with nutrition in a way you probably haven't had to before. And that might make you uncomfy. But the good news is you don't have to know that much. Obviously, the more, the better, but even the basics will get you far. When I say basics, I mean knowing the 3 macronutrients, which are fat, carbs, and protein. Knowing what food sources provide them. Understanding what calories are and how they work. And it's not something you need to learn from one day to the next. I'm 5.5 years in and I'm still learning. But the best time to start learning is now. And actually, there's a really simple method you can use to make sure you're getting what you need every meal. So check out this video where I show you exactly how you can make the perfect vegan plate every time.